All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be leading the meeting today, so bear with me. Jack, did you want to start your presentation? You are first on my list of things to go over. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's just fine. I'll try
All
to.
right.
I've got a few in, well, more than a few, but I'll try to be quick with this. But
Okay.
it's kind of interesting. So
Yep. And then we have a couple things to go over once Jack is done, but I can keep it short also.
okay. Well, what I'm going to share with you are just some of the national and international pages that I collected on Saturday and Sunday, commemorating the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Because I was just curious to see how different papers covered that, what kind of graphics or photographs or angles they used, and I came across some pretty interesting stuff. I know I shared with you guys some of the FCC pages on Monday, and so I've only got one of those I'm going to start off with for my little presentation. But I'm going to share my screen with everybody now. Figure out how to do this now. Where is here we go, present now. It looked a little different once it went to a different format here, so it took me a minute to find out the. Yes, I went to share. Okay. Hide that. Okay, I'm just going to bring up these different PDFs and start at the top, and I'm going to click them off as I go. I thought this was one of our more impactful pages, just because of as Brainerd usually does, it's got the big central picture, and if I remember correctly, this is the same photograph of the second tower being hit by a plane that was on the cover of the Forum back in 2001, because that somewhere in my basement I still got that newspaper. But I thought we did a really nice job in general, and I thought this one I didn't share a few days ago just because I know everyone has seen this picture, but it still has a lot of impact and a lot of, it's a shocking image. I'm just going to go down the line now. We're going to start with, I thought it was interesting. The New York Times had a very subdued, it kind of is in keeping with the New York Times. They're the paper of record, so they don't go for sensationalist stuff, and they're not showing anything. I'll zoom in on this a little bit. They're just showing a group of flags that were placed in this is kind of tied in with the deaths of the 13 members in Marine and other armed forces members we lost a couple of weeks ago in Afghanistan. So they did not have a real big page at all on commemorating 9/11, just because that's not really how they work. Wall Street Journal had something, just kind of a nice subdued image of the lights down at Ground Zero or near Ground Zero. The Daily News, New York Daily News, I'm kind of starting with the papers that were closest to the source, then I'm going to kind of branch out to other parts of the country. Daily News is a little more sensationalist, kind of like the New York Post. I couldn't find a New York Post image, but I'm sure it was somewhat similar. Had an interesting personal angle about these two women who lost their dads in 9/11, but they're friends now. So it is interesting to see how many of the covers had kind of a global angle, but also some of them, many of them had a very personal angle, like we did, for example, on the cover of the Forum with the story of that person that was lost who used to live in Moorhead. The Newsday, New York Newsday, it's a Long Island newspaper, I thought this was a poignant and just impactful pictorial, no words necessary. Black and white photos sometimes have more power, I think, than color photos. So this was a neat photo. This was very interesting too. This is the Staten Island Advance, one of the 5 boroughs in New York, and I'll zoom in. They just published or printed the names of all the Staten Islanders, 275 of them that were killed that day. So, again, a lot of times less is more. It's just a real stark page, and I thought it was very effective. This was a Spanish newspaper in New York that it has a lot of impact too. It shows people at the memorial at Ground Zero. I thought that was well done. This particular paper kind of leans almost towards the Inquirer look with the bright yellow headlines. So it's a little bit on the tabloid side, of course, and it is a tabloid paper, but I thought it was also an interesting thing. They even have the mask over the D on El Diario, I guess, or Diario, however you say it. And this was a paper in Trenton, New Jersey, or no, it's a North New Jersey paper. Again, very kind of just pictorial, understated. Visual impact is quite impressive. Now we're going to look at a few pages from just various papers around the country. This was a California page, Anniston, California. Powerful image on the cover there. Thought they did a nice job of placement and layout and the little bullet points and things like that. Bakersfield, California I thought the headline just really kind of grabbed my attention. I couldn't figure out how I got out of there alive. One of those local stories, but also just a really impressive looking centerpiece for the Bakersfield paper. They turned the headline into kind of a piece of art, go along with the photo. Again, I'm not even sure where the Louisiana, Lake Charles, Louisiana. This is I thought a real interesting and pretty page. It's kind of moving, but it's also classy and it's spacious. So I thought that was a nice way to remember. A different one, but also very impactful with a little more shock value is the Las Vegas, Nevada paper that shows the aftermath of the towers that collapsed. We've all seen these images, I know, before, but when they reappear after so many years of kind of being suppressed, it does have a lot of impact. I'm sorry, did you say something, Michael?
Nope, you're okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I was messing with my headphones on accident.
Oh, no, that's all right. I thought maybe you had a question. This was a South Carolina paper. Again, just a very pure photograph. I mean, just with the logo and a header and just letting the image speak for itself. I thought that was quite a classy and touching way to present the story. This one too, again, a kind of a local angle for a man who was at Ground Zero and survived, but it still obviously haunts him. I thought this was kind of a little town in Texas. We'll zoom in a little bit. Longview, Texas. I thought they did kind of an interesting job turning the photograph of the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center into a graphic and colorizing it, and then having this torn paper kind of rending the image in half with a quote from George W. Bush was a pretty effective way to do something a little different. A lot of open space, and just another powerful page, I thought. We head overseas, and I believe this was Austria. Another interesting, the story is actually becomes the type blocks become the two buildings and the graphics and everything. Definitely something that's going to grab your attention. Done respectfully, but just a little, almost more old-fashioned. To me, it reminds me of some of the things you might have seen in newspapers 50, 60 years ago with more of that linear illustration. This was one from Bermuda, and it's just a very haunting image of the second plane about to strike the building that's hidden behind the first tower. Very famous image from television that day. And I thought this one from Canada was interesting. This is the Toronto Sun, and in the inset 20 years ago it said bastards, and then they just repeated it again this time. So this paper goes a little bit more onto the sensationalist side of thing, but it's still, definitely with the yellow type and everything, it's got that tabloid look. Definitely has a certain power to it. So I'm sure they sold some copies. And this one from Saudi Arabia I thought was interesting, just because they used a graphic interpretation of the 9/11 numbers, and if you zoom in, they also Oops, it doesn't want to. Okay, there we go. They also have some stories critical of the United States about George W. Bush, a date which will also live in infamy. So it's not totally sympathetic towards us, but it is interesting just seeing what the different angles are that different places did. The following day, I'm just about ready to wrap this up because I know this is getting kind of long. We did have a few pages. There were a lot of nice pictures that were repeated, but I thought, and because so much of the focus was always on the World Trade Center, you didn't see as many things about the Pentagon or the crash in Pennsylvania, Shanksville. I thought this was a nice photo of them hanging a flag at the Pentagon on last Saturday. And just zooming in, I think there's Huntsville, Alabama. So we're going way down south, but I thought that was a beautiful photo and just a nice way to commemorate that. Couple of more personal stories were this one in the California Enterprise Record. I'm not even sure what town in California that is. Oh, Chico. It's Chico, California. There's a personal story in here, some photographs, and some commemorations. Same goes for this one from it's a Florida newspaper. We'll zoom in a little bit. This is a man who actually he lives in Florida now, but he was there the day and had survived the collapse. Worked at the Trade Center. Interesting photo of him with the two. They're kind of he's at a memorial which has the image or has statues, or I should say sculptures of the two buildings in kind of in a stylized manner. And finally, I thought this was a nice looking page by the Minneapolis Star Tribune, the Strib. It's just, again, I always admire their the cleanness and the class of their front pages, and starts off with a different story about gun violence in Minneapolis. But this was an interesting photo taken at Ground Zero that they gave a big space to of current and former presidents and first ladies gathered at Ground Zero, along with other dignitaries. I just thought this was a really effective page to kind of end on, because it really kind of symbolizes what I think is a nice way to sum up what the day was about. And I'm all done with my little thing here, so I will stop presenting, let you guys get back to what you're doing. I hope some of those pages were kind of interesting for you to see.
Absolutely.
There were a lot of other ones out there, but I didn't want to get too repetitious. But it was like, oh, there's so many good ones. I wanted to share a big chunk of them. So thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks, Jack.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right. So we have a couple of just some house cleaning things to do as we get working on the pod. Some of the small stuff is going to change along the way. One thing that we would like in Slack is when you ask a question, or when a pod editor or manager addresses you, we'd like people to start replying in a thread. That way we can go back and, it's easier for us to find the replies, all that sort of stuff, when there happens to be some sort of miscommunication from everybody. Kind of cuts down on having to jump a bunch of other replies to find the one that you're talking to. Makes it easier as far as the dates go and knowing which paper and all that stuff that we're talking about. One of the things about threads is that you have to tag the person every time. So make sure we're doing that so that they get the notification and can help you as early as possible. One of the things too that we've been doing, but we want to try to make it a point now, as far as the pod editors and the hub managers, when you post something, we've asked that somebody from the pod place the eyes emoji on it, letting you know that they're looking into it and they'll get back to you. That way they don't have two people working on the same thing. It helps for their team too. And the same thing for our hub managers. When you address one of us, if we don't answer you right away, we'll let you know that we're looking into your request. So those are just two things that we would like to switch up as far as how we communicate with pod members in Slack. This will go for the same. This will be the same when the new pod groups start up too. So this is just going to kind of how we're going to be doing things going forward. Another difference in the pod is even though we have Wilmer, sports, news, a lot of that stuff, the reminder is actually going to stay with them for now. I'm not sure if that will change at some point, but until you hear otherwise, that's going to stay with them. So those questions do go in the Wilmer design channel. I see that Donna is the contact for that. So make sure that those remain separate from the pod. Along with our updated Q&A script, we also have another script that we're going to be introducing that hopefully will help you guys and will make things a little bit more clear. Share my screen for just a second. Sorry. All right, so we're going to introduce a features script. So that script will bring everything in as you see it. So instead of having to adjust the top headline, which normally comes in bold, now it will come in light. One of the kind of hangups with this is that you'll see obviously that the headline and the subhead are the same font. So we just need designers to be making sure that it's breaking, where it's supposed to. If you have to double check the Google Doc to make sure that the headline is the headline and the subhead is the subhead, that's kind of what we're looking for. But this should go for, features, columns, and then also this is how we want the stuff that says analysis. So if it says analysis colon whatever, that analysis needs to be made into a label, and then this feature script is what needs to be used on that. We do have the Q&A script also, so make sure that we're using that. And just for some reason, if you use the features but not the Q&A, remember that it should get headlight, but it should not have a drop cap. So please use the script, but if you forget, those two things are key. All right. Do we have the poll, Alicia? Do we have that one or no?
Yep, it's up.
Okay, so one of the polls we have is we're gonna ask if you guys want a CP script, which will keep that top one as bold or potentially change it to one of our feature scripts. So if you guys could vote on that, we can check into that in a couple minutes. But I believe that is all I got. Let me double check. Yep, so that is all that I have to go over. Joe's going to go over a couple things about the scoreboard because we've been having a couple issues and some editor emails about that. So I will let Joe do that. 1 second. All yours, Joe.
All right, yeah. So we've gotten complaints about items being in local paper scoreboards from the corporate that they did not list. I mean, that's kind of like just putting a story that they didn't list on their budget. So, and a lot of times it's just padding it out or filling it out. Ask the local editor if they want something else from the scoreboard. Don't just go and grab another MLB box score or whatever. That's just, you're putting things in their paper they might not want, and we can't have that. And also, when you are doing the corporate scoreboard, just please follow the item on the left side of the page on what to grab. We're getting things in the scoreboard that really nobody is using, or it's not that important, like random tennis games or the wrong golf games or whatever. So just keep an eye on that. Just follow what codes to grab and what, glances or whatever to grab. That's pretty much it. Also, just if you have questions, reach out to a hub manager. We can help out with that too. And also, if it's a pod paper with the scoreboard questions, like ask the pod editor or manager if you can fill out with transactions or whatever. But just don't go on your own and do that. We just can't have that. That is all I got. Back to you, Michael.
Alicia, do you want to go over the poll? It doesn't look like I can see the results without you doing it. Okay. So it looks like you guys do want, I can see it now because you changed it. Thank you. So it's a tie between you're fine either way and if you want a CP script. So I'm going to assume that the managers will talk about it and we will decide, or what. I guess I'm not sure what to do, but of course, I get the fun ones. Appreciate it. So yeah, so we will get back to you on what we decide with that to make sure that we're all on the same page. But that's all that I have. If any of the managers or Alicia have anything else, if not, we can be done. All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. Appreciate it.